Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel and I hope everyone is doing fine. So today we are going to discuss very important topic in Spark which is rename multiple columns in Spark. Okay. So this is a very important topic. Whenever you will work in real projects then you will use this rename multiple columns in Spark. Okay. And also this is a very important topic from interview point of view also. Okay. So without wasting any time, let's start. But before watching this video, I will request you guys to go to my YouTube channel, okay, and watch this GIF function in Python video, and also this with column rename video, okay. Because without watching this, if you come to this video, right, you may get confused, okay. Because I will be using this GIF function and also this with column rename in this video, okay. So I don't want you guys to get confused, okay. So let's start now. Okay. So as you can see, I already have a small data frame. Okay. So what I will do first, we will first start with a small data frame. Okay. And then we will discuss what are the various ways available to rename columns. And then we will apply the same methods on the last data. Okay. And then we will see which method is the best one. Okay. So let's start. Okay. So as you can see right now, I have a small data frame which has just three columns: ID, name, and salary. So now my aim is to rename this ID to employee ID and name to employee name and salary to employee salary. So how can I do that? So let's start. So the first method that is available in Spark is the with column rename, right? So as you know, right, with column rename is to rename the columns in Spark, right? So let's say now you have the requirements, right, to rename these three columns. So the first thing will come to your mind, okay, what I will do, I will just create a new data frame. So let's create and we will say with column renamed, okay. Then what I can do here, oh, I can type ID to what I employee ID, right? I want to rename to employee ID. The similar way what I can do, I can go and rename name and I can rename salary also. Okay. So let me do it first. Okay. Salary to employee salary. I will do. Okay. Let me show this data frame. So as you can see, right, we achieved the result whatever we wanted to do, right? The ID got renamed to employee ID, name got renamed to employee name, and salary got renamed to employee salary. So this is how in your mind the first thing will come, right? Okay, I can simply use with column rename and I can rename all the three columns. Okay, but so now let's go to the second point. Okay, and then I will come back again to this point. Okay, and I will explain what is the limitation of this. Okay, so let's move to the second method. How can I do it? So if you see here, right, what I need to do, I have to type three times, right, for renaming three columns. But let's say there was a large data containing 100 columns, then obviously you will have to go and type 100 times this, right? So will you really type this 100 times in your real project? I don't think so, right? You are not gonna type this 100 times or 200 times, right? So what is the best way other than this? Okay, this is not the best way, right? You can achieve the result, but it will not work on large data, right? Okay. So what you can do, so now we will what we will do, we will use a GIF function, okay, and we will use with colon rename also, but it will not be like this, okay. So let me just type the sentence, then we will see, okay. So what I will do, let me just create a new, um, let's say I am calling it df GIF, okay, and it is equal to diff, okay. So I will use a follow for old. Let me first type, then I will explain, okay. So what I am using here is GIF. So that's what I said. Just go to my previous video and watch what is zip function in Python. Okay. So now in zip, as you know, right, we can pass multiple lists. Okay. So it will create one list and we can iterate using on both of the list. Okay. So now what I will do, df zip, I will say, okay, equal to, and I will say with column rename. I want to rename old to new. Okay, and let me first show the result. Then then I will explain you. Okay, what we did. Okay, so as you can see, right, the result is same now also, right, as was earlier, right? But what is the difference, right? Which one will you choose? Just tell me, okay? You're not gonna type this with column rename 100 times or 200 times, right? So here, if you see, I just typed with column rename only one time, right? And I'm using the for loop, right, to iterate through the list, correct? So obviously, out of these two, which is the best? Obviously, anyone can say, okay, this is the best. I don't need to write so much big code, right? In one line only, I'm able to rename the code, okay? So this is these are the two methods that we discussed now, right? Okay, now let me go to the next method, and we will see. And I'm sure that that is gonna be better than these two also, okay? So let me go to the next one. So next one is gonna be very simple, okay? We are gonna use the select. So select, you know, right? It is used to select the columns, right? So I will just create one data frame df select, okay? And what I will do, df dot select, okay? This is syntax, okay? And then what I will do, column, it's old, and I will use the alias method here. So as you know, right? How do you rename the columns since SQL also, right? You use alias, right? So alias is also used for renaming the columns, right? Okay. So here I am using the same thing, right? In data frame in PySpark you type this syntax, right? D column dot alias, right? So I want to alias it to new columns, right? Okay. And what I will do here, since I need to iterate the columns, right? So I'm gonna use the same for loop that I used earlier. Okay. So let me first show this data frame and then we will go next. Okay. Okay. So as you can see, right, the result is same, right? We are able to achieve the same result, right? So what we did here, we did nothing actually, right? Select, we just pass the columns, right? So what I did here, I'm just using a for loop because we have multiple columns, right? Okay. So multiple columns, I want to rename all the columns one by one, right? So that's how you can rename the columns. Okay. So you understand three methods, right? So first method was obviously just to use with column rename multiple times, then equal to the number of columns, right? If you have three columns, then you will have to type three times. If you have 100 columns, then you will have to type 100 times, right? So obviously you are not going to use this, right? Then the next method was how can I reduce the code of this method, okay? So what I did, I just use a for loop and just I use with column rename only one time, right? And the next method is like how can I rename using select? So as you know, right, in SQL we can use alias method for renaming the columns. So here also I am using the for loop, right? So that's how we are able to get the results. Okay. Okay. Now let's move next and we will see. Okay. Okay. Just I want to cover one thing here. Okay. Why I pass the lists here? Okay. So that okay. Let me just remove the list and then we will see what is will it work without list. So as you can see, right, it gave us the error. It didn't work. What error it is giving? It is giving invalid argument, not a string or column, right? So basically, your select method will always expect some column, okay? But right now, if you see, right, we are passing a for loop, okay? If you see, we are passing a for loop, which it will not accept, right? Okay. So that's the reason we pass the list because list is a variable length argument, right? Okay. So that's why it will pass the column name one by one, and then select will be able to select the columns, right? So that's the reason only we use list here, okay? So it is just for someone who just started the career in PySpark, so just for them, okay, they may get confused why I'm using list here, okay? Because select method uses the columns, that's why, okay? If we don't pass list, then it will be for loop, right? Which will not work with select, right? Okay. So I hope this is clear, okay? And let's move to the next one. Okay. So we have one more method that can be used for renaming the columns, okay? So that is that is one is a toDF, okay? So how can we use this? So let me create one more data frame. And what is syntax? df dot toDF you will have to type, okay? df dot toDF, and then you just need to pass the new list of columns, okay? And let me just show it. So as you can see, right, we are able to achieve the same result, right? Okay. But what is the difference between this and the other ones that we discussed? So let's say you have a requirement where you want to rename all the columns, okay? You need to rename all the columns of your data, right? Then you can use this 2DF because And what you can do is you can just create a new list, okay, and which will contain the new columns, okay. But remember one thing, okay, here as you can see, right, I have two lists right here, old column, new columns, okay. So just remember that you should have the new name corresponding to your old column, okay. It is not like that you will pass the employee name here in your first place, no, then your data will not become correct, right? So just remember that the order of the columns should be same as your old columns, okay. It is not that employee id will pass at the end and employee salary at the first, then obviously your id will become salary and salary will become id, okay. So just remember that your columns order should be same, okay, while renaming columns, okay. So whenever you require that you need to rename all of your columns, then you can use toDF, okay. But let's say your requirement where you don't need to rename all columns of data, but you just want to rename only few columns, then you can use this select, or you can use this these methods that is explained, right? Using j with column rename, then you can use these ones. And with column rename also you can use simply, okay. So, but whenever your requirement that you want to rename all columns, then you can go with this one, okay. It's a very straightforward, okay. So let's move next. Okay, so why I use asterisk here? Because if you know, right, in Python, the asterisk it is used for unpacking a list, right? So what it will do basically, so whatever columns your list contains, right, it will pass one by one to DM method, so that you it can be used for renaming the columns. Okay. So I hope this is clear, right? So let's move to the next. Okay. So here we are just comparing the method which one to use when. So as I told you, right, 2DF you will use only when you want to rename all your columns, okay. But just remember the list that you are passing, it should be in the same order as the old columns, okay. But if you want to rename only few columns or many columns, you can go with select or with column rename, okay. Whatever you want to do, okay. So now let's move to the next. Okay. Now we will see which approach is better, with column rename or select. So you are clear about 2DF, right? You will use it only whenever you want to rename all columns. But let's say your requirement only for few columns, right? Now what I will do, I will apply it on a large data. Okay. So let me first execute these cells, then I will explain one by one what I'm gonna do. So till now we have seen the example with very small data frame, right? Now what I'm gonna do, as you can see in my code, right? I created some columns, random columns, 200 columns, okay? And I'm assigning some data to them randomly, okay? So basically this is some data that you can consider which is having 200 columns and with some 200 data. So as you can see my data, right? It is having 200 columns, right? And it is having some data, right? As you can see. So you can consider it as a big file which is having 200 columns. Now what I will do, I will apply the same with column medium and select both. On the last data, you will see what happened. Okay. So as you can see in this cell, I am applying with column rename to rename all the columns, 200 columns. So as you can see, the time it took is the 12 seconds, right? And if you go to the next one, I use the select here to rename all the columns. Okay. So as you can see, the time it took is the 4 seconds. So basically, as you can see, it is 3 times faster, right? Select 3 times faster as compared to this, right? With column rename using J function, right? So what happened, like why it is faster select? So the reason why it is faster, because the thing is like here if you see, right, I'm using for loop, okay, and I'm just creating this data frame again and again, right? So let's consider you have 200 columns here, right? So what will happen? Your this data frame will be created 200 times, okay, and now to execute those 200 data frame 200 times, obviously it is gonna take time and it is gonna take our resources, right? So that's why it is taking more time as compared to this select. Your select is not creating 200 data frames, okay? It will just create only one data frame in one go, okay? It is not gonna create all the data frames again and again, okay? So that's the reason this select is much better than this method, okay? So whenever you have requirement, you want to rename multiple columns, then I will request you guys to use this select, okay? Because it is the most optimized way to rename your columns, okay? So you can see with the example, right, why it is taking less time, because the reason is very simple. It will create 200 data frames, but here it will just create one data frame. That's why the processing of this will be much easier and faster as compared to this one, right? So I hope this was clear, okay? This question can be asked in your interview, right? I know you can rename multiple columns, but which is the best way? Which is the best method to rename the columns, multiple columns, okay. So I hope you will be able to answer this question now, okay. So I hope the video was useful to you guys, okay. If you like the video, then please subscribe to my channel and please like the video, comment it. Okay. We will meet in the next video. Okay, with some interesting topic. Till then, goodbye and thank you.